Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. You know we like to dig into some of the most important topics in sales and revenue, and today we're diving into the world of sales call recording, something that has become essential for sales leaders everywhere. And joining me is Nova, a true expert when it comes to sales call recording and, well, sales and revenue in general. Nova, I'm really excited to unpack all this with you because it seems like sales call recording is so much more than just hitting the record button.
Absolutely. It really is. It's all about turning those raw conversations you're having into actionable insights, into real data, and that can really reshape how you approach your whole sales strategy.
So let's start with the basics. How does modern sales call recording actually work? What makes it different from, just using a simple voice recorder from back in the day?
Think of it less like a simple recorder and more like an intelligent system that captures every customer interaction. And not only does it capture them, but it stores them securely in the cloud and then can integrate right with your CRM to give you this really comprehensive picture of each deal.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. But why is this so important? How does having all of this data actually help sales teams and revenue leaders achieve their goals?
Well, just imagine if you could identify the subtle nuances in a conversation that lead to a closed deal versus, let's say, one that fizzles out. That's what sales call recording allows you to do. It reveals the patterns and the best practices that you might otherwise miss.
That's interesting. So it's not just about catching mistakes, right? It's more about understanding what actually works, what's working for your team.
Precisely, yeah. And you can take all this data and create coaching programs that focus on replicating those successful behaviors. So it's almost like having a blueprint for winning deals.
Yeah, now that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned CRM integration earlier. How does that fit into all of this?
Yeah. Think of your CRM as like the central hub for all your customer data, right? And by connecting your call recordings, you're adding this rich layer of context to every opportunity, every lead, every customer profile. So you can see not just what was said, which is what you might be able to get from notes logged into your CRM, but also how it was said, providing those insights into customer sentiment and buying signals.
So it's really about moving beyond those static data points and adding that human element to the analysis, which I think is really interesting. I'm curious, what specific benefits does this offer to different people within a sales organization? We're talking about more than just sales reps here, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For a CRO, I mean, this is just a gold mine for making strategic decisions. They can identify emerging market trends, they can understand how effective their current messaging is, and they can even get much better at forecasting revenue.
And what about someone like a sales enablement manager? How can they leverage these insights?
They can use these insights to really pinpoint where knowledge gaps are within the team, and then they can refine onboarding processes and develop really targeted training materials based on real-world conversations.
Okay, this is all starting to paint a very clear picture of just how powerful this technology can be. Now, let's talk about some specific tools that are out there. There are a lot of options available now. What are some of the leading players in this market?
Well, there are three platforms that really stand out, and they're often mentioned together: Meet Record, Gong, and Clary Copilot. Each one has unique strengths and addresses different needs.
Okay, let's dive into those a little bit. Starting with Meet Record, what's their main focus?
Meet Record, they're all about turning conversations into actionable insights. They excel at automatically recording, transcribing, and analyzing calls, but what really sets them apart are their conversation intelligence capabilities.
Conversation intelligence. I feel like that's a term we hear a lot these days. Can you unpack that for us a little bit?
It's about going beyond just, a simple transcription of what was said. It's about understanding those nuances of human conversation. So Meet Record analyzes things like talk time ratios, question types, and even uses AI to actually score calls based on, your specific evaluation criteria. They have these AI-powered scorecards that are, I mean, they're really impressive.
AI-powered scorecards. So it's like having, an extra set of ears listening in and providing objective feedback. How about Gong? What makes them different?
Gong, I mean, they are a big player in revenue intelligence. Their platform provides a 360-degree view of customer interactions. While they certainly excel at call recording and analysis, like Meet Record does, they also offer really robust market intelligence features.
So they're taking a more holistic approach by pulling in data from a wider range of sources.
Exactly. And then we have Clary Copilot, which is part of a larger revenue operations platform, and they focus more on providing real-time insights and guidance during live sales calls. So imagine, having this virtual assistant helping your reps navigate those crucial conversations as they're happening.
It sounds like each of these platforms offers a really unique set of features and benefits. Now, knowing what we know about these tools, let's get practical for a moment. What are some key takeaways for sales and revenue leaders who are listening to this right now?
The first takeaway is this. Sales call recording isn't about surveillance. It's not about micromanaging your team. It's about empowering them with data-driven insights.
It's about giving them the tools and information that they need to improve their skills and close more deals. I completely agree with that. What else should our listeners keep in mind?
I think the second key takeaway is to choose the right tool for your needs. Consider your budget, how tech savvy your team is, and really the level of insight you're looking for. Don't feel pressured to jump into the most advanced platform if a simpler solution will do the trick.
Yeah, that's great advice, focusing on what your team actually needs. Now, let's talk about actually leveraging these recordings, putting them to work, so to speak. What are some practical tips for making the most of all this data?
Well, first off, pre-call research is super important. Your reps should go into every call armed with insights from your CRM, maybe some recent industry news, and a clear understanding of what the prospect needs. This shows that they've done their homework and it really builds credibility.
It's all about demonstrating value right from the beginning. I like that. What about during the call itself? What should sales reps be focusing on?
One really powerful technique is to try to identify internal advocates within the prospect's organization. These are people who are already using your product or service and they're loving it. Their testimonials can be incredibly persuasive.
So it's about leveraging social proof and building consensus within, like, the prospects team. Brilliant. Now, what about after the call? How do you follow up effectively using these recordings?
Post-call analysis is really where the magic happens, I think. Encourage your reps to listen back to their recordings, identify areas where they could improve, and then craft really personalized follow-up emails that address specific concerns or questions that came up during the conversation.
It's about turning insights into action. That makes a lot of sense. Now, we've touched on coaching a bit earlier, but I really want to dig a little deeper here. How can sales leaders use call recordings to build more effective coaching programs?
Call recordings are a goldmine for targeted, data-driven coaching. Instead of relying on, gut feeling or just anecdotal evidence, you can pinpoint specific moments in a call where a rep excelled or, maybe stumbled a little bit.
Yeah, it's about moving away from that subjective feedback and providing concrete examples, like specific moments, for improvement.
Exactly. For instance, let's say you notice a pattern of reps talking over clients during objections. You can use the recordings to illustrate that specific behavior and then coach them on active listening techniques.
That's a lot more powerful than simply saying, hey, listen more. Now, I know there are different approaches to coaching. Are there any specific best practices when it comes to using call recordings?
Absolutely. First, remember to celebrate wins. Don't just focus on the negative. Review those successful calls and highlight what worked, what went well, and reinforce those behaviors. It's not always about fixing mistakes. It's about replicating success.
So it's about finding a balance of positive reinforcement and constructive criticism.
Precisely. And when you do provide feedback, encourage self-reflection. Ask open-ended questions like, how do you think you handled that objection? What could you have done differently?
It's about empowering them to really own their performance and come up with their own solutions. I like that.
Yeah. And remember that coaching is an ongoing process. You can't just do it once and expect it to stick. Salespeople tend to forget 84% of coaching within 3 months, so regular reinforcement using those recorded calls is essential.
Wow, 84%. That's a staggering statistic. It really highlights the need for consistent coaching and using those recordings to refresh what's been covered. Now, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the psychological aspects of sales calls. How can analyzing these recordings help us understand human behavior and maybe even improve our understanding of the whole sales process itself?
Sales calls are really fascinating microcosms of human interaction. You see persuasion, you see negotiation, sometimes you even see, a little bit of emotional manipulation at play. By analyzing recordings, we can actually identify subtle patterns and tendencies that can reveal a lot about both the buyer and the seller.
So it's almost about, like, reading between the lines, understanding those unspoken dynamics of the conversation.
Exactly. For example, we can analyze speech patterns, things like tone of voice, pace, and the use of filler words. Those can give us insights into, confidence levels, emotional states, maybe even areas of discomfort.
It's almost like having a lie detector built into the software.
Well, not quite a lie detector, but it does give us a much deeper understanding of how people communicate and also how emotions influence buying decisions. We can also look at things like talk time ratios, how often people interrupt each other, and the types of questions being asked.
And what can we learn from those patterns?
Well, for instance, if a salesperson is dominating the conversation, it might mean that they're not really listening effectively. Or if a prospect is asking a lot of detailed questions, that could signal that they're really interested.
It's all about decoding those subtle signals that we often miss in real time. Now, I know we've focused a lot on the analytical aspects of call recording,
hmm
but these recordings can also be really valuable for just building relationships with clients, right?
Oh, absolutely. When a salesperson listens to a client's concerns, you know, takes good notes, demonstrates that they truly understand their needs, it builds a lot of trust and rapport.
Yeah, it's about moving beyond just the transactional and fostering that genuine connection.
Right. And recordings can be really valuable reminders of key details from past conversations. So salespeople can personalize their follow-up and really show that they've been paying attention.
It's like having a little cheat sheet for building stronger relationships, which is great. Now, let's talk about the impact on team dynamics. How can call recording help foster collaboration and knowledge sharing within a sales organization?
Imagine a scenario where you've got, a junior rep who's struggling with a particular objection. They could easily just share the recording with, a more experienced team member and get feedback on how to handle it better next time.
It's like having this built-in mentorship program. That's a great point.
Exactly. And sales managers can use these recordings to identify challenges that are faced by, the team as a whole, and then they can address them proactively in training sessions or team meetings.
So it's about creating this culture of continuous learning and improvement where everybody benefits from shared knowledge and experience.
Precisely. And that kind of transparency and collaboration can have a huge impact on overall sales performance. Now, I'm curious to hear what you think. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see sales leaders facing when it comes to implementing and, effectively leveraging call recording?
That's a great question. I think for a lot of sales leaders, one of the biggest challenges is just getting buy-in from the team. Some reps might feel like they're being micromanaged or that their privacy is being invaded, which is understandable.
Yeah, it's definitely a valid concern. I mean, nobody wants to feel like they're being constantly watched.
Right, exactly. So how do you address that?
Well, transparency is key. You need to clearly communicate why you're recording calls and emphasize that it's not about catching people doing something wrong. It's about helping them improve and providing them with valuable feedback that can help them close more deals.
So it's about framing it as a tool for empowerment, not as a way to like punish people or, find fault with their performance.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the importance of training. Make sure your team knows how to use the software, how to access their recordings, how to analyze the data, and how to actually apply those insights to their daily work.
It's about giving them the knowledge and the skills they need to actually benefit from the technology. So it's not just enough to have the tool. You need to actually show them how to use it effectively.
Right, exactly.
Now, looking ahead, what are some of the emerging trends in sales call recording? Where do you see this technology heading in the future?
Oh, there's so much happening in this space. It's really exciting. One of the most interesting things is the increasing use of artificial intelligence, or AI. We're starting to see AI being used to analyze calls in real time, as they're happening, which means reps can actually get prompts and guidance during the conversation itself.
Wow, so it's like having a virtual sales coach whispering in their ear.
Yeah, exactly. And the really cool thing is that these AI systems are constantly learning and improving, so they're getting better at predicting outcomes, at identifying those key buying signals, and even suggesting the most effective sales strategies.
It sounds like science fiction is becoming reality in the sales world.
It really is, and I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. We're also seeing a lot of innovation in areas like voice recognition, natural language processing, and predictive analytics. So I think the future of sales call recording is going to be all about harnessing the power of data and technology to create a more efficient, more effective, and ultimately a more human-centric sales process.
That's a powerful thought and a great way to wrap up this deep dive. Nova, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, really. I'm always happy to talk about the power of this technology.
And for our listeners, we hope this episode has given you a new perspective on the potential of sales call recording. Remember, it's not about Big Brother watching you. It's about providing you with the insights you need to succeed. So embrace this technology, unlock those hidden gems in your sales conversations, and happy selling.